Night has fallen, and the moon is a glowing golden orb in the black sky. See how it shines on the dark back roads of America, and on one road in particular. Come with us, and we'll take a walk down the Moonlit Road, for the night is waiting, and the moon is full.
The Moonlit Road presents The Wampas Mask, adapted by Craig Dominey and Janice Butt, and told by Janice Butt.
Barbara Ann had lived her life in those mountains in Tennessee. She knew exactly what she needed to know to make a good life. So had Tommy Joe. He'd grown up in those mountains too. And when they decided to get married, it wasn't any surprise to anybody. The whole knoll came together to help put up the house. It's just a 2-room house, but that'd be big enough for now. The day of the wedding, they all gathered again, and in the old traditional manner, Barbara Ann brought a loaf of bread to show as a symbol that she knew how to take care of a family. And Tommy Joe, he brought a side of venison because he was the best hunter in the whole county. They made vows and promises to each other that they would take care of each other for the rest of their lives. And so they moved in the house together and started their new life. Before long, Tommy Joe decided he wanted to go hunting. Some of the fellas had said they'd come, and when they didn't show up, Tommy Joe decided to go on by himself. Now, Barbara Ann tried her best to keep him there. She'd heard from the time she was little about the Ewa. Nobody had ever been able to say what he looked like exactly. But they did know that if you went out in those woods by yourself, that Ewa was liable to look you straight in the eye, and if he did, you'd go stone cold crazy. Everybody knew that. Tommy Joe said he was going hunting anyway. It was probably a good chance for him to show off for his new bride. That morning, Barbara Ann tried to do the chores she normally did. She washed a few clothes, but it was hard smelling the smell of her Tommy Joe and him out in that woods alone. She baked some bread, but it wouldn't rise for some reason. Suddenly, in the afternoon, she heard a sound coming from deep in the forest. Ah! A wail. From that time on, Barbara Ann walked back and forth from the kitchen to the porch, from the kitchen to the porch, back and forth every 5 minutes until she finally saw him. There came Tommy Joe, stumbling out of the woods, his hair in every direction, standing on its end. His eyes wild and crazy, moving back and forth and never stopping. His clothes were torn, and he had cuts and scrapes all over him. It took her a long time to get him settled down and into the bed. And by that time, everybody'd come, bringing food and offers to help. That's what they did up there in those mountains when there was a crisis, when somebody died. Well, this was like a death, Tommy Joe had died, the Tommy Joe she knew. He might be able to do a few things eventually, but he'd never be her Tommy Joe again. She cried and cried, and in the midst of the grief, she figured out that somebody had to stop that Ewa. Her anger and her grief sent her out of that house. She didn't know where she was going at first, but as she stumbled on through the woods toward the holler, she figured out she had to go see the old woman. Now that old woman, everybody knew that old woman was crazy. She shouldn't go see that old woman. The woman had the sight, and nobody wanted to have anything to do with her. But her anger and her grief sent her on toward that old woman's house. It sent her up the steps and through the door, her anger driving her on. "Come in," the old woman said. "Come into my house. I've been expecting you." She didn't want to go in, but she couldn't keep from it now. The old woman found her a place to sit by the fire and listen to her while she told her the whole story. "I think I can help you," the old woman said as she pulled out a big mask and handed it to Barbara Ann. Barbara Ann looked at that mask. It was the ugliest thing she'd ever seen. It looked like an ugly old cat with fur all around its head. This mask has special powers. The Indians call it the Wampas Mask. In order for you to get rid of the Ewa, you must scare him first before he can get a good look at you. If he sees you first, you'll go stone cold crazy. Now put on this mask and find him. Scare him before he scares you. I must warn you, however, if you wear this mask, you may wish you hadn't. Barbara Ann grabbed the mask, said her thanks, and went running out the door. She needed to be out of that house. She didn't think too much about what the old woman had said. Once out of the house, she looked at the mask and thought, well, if I don't wear it, what other chance have I got? So she put the mask on her face. It fit real nice and snug. She stumbled around going into the woods because she couldn't see out of that mask. If the Ewa was nearby, he would have heard her for sure. Finally, she just hunkered down next to an old bush and sat still for just a few minutes and waited. While her eyes became accustomed to the dark, and then she could see that the trees were outlined behind a moon that was rising. She could see a way through the woods that she hadn't been able to see before. So she slowly stood and began to go silently through the woods, watching every footstep and making as little noise as possible. Her heart was beating so loud, she was sure the Ewa would hear her anywhere. Her hands were clammy, and the veins on the back of her neck were standing up. And then she heard a sound. It sort of sounded like a baby crying. What would a baby be doing out in these woods? That wasn't a baby. That's the Ewa. He's a smart old fella, trying to fool me. But I know better. She took soft, slow steps toward where the sound had been coming from. Ooh, ooh. There he was. He was looking in the other direction, and he couldn't see her. She moved as soft and as quietly as she could, even though her ears were pounding from her fear. He was looking the other way. Oh, he was ugly. From the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, there was hair everywhere. He had long, claw-like fingers and feet that were as ugly as his hands. His shoulders were like boards, and his neck was thick as a plank. Just then he began to turn. He's going to turn around and see me. I know he is. He's going to see me. He began to turn his head. What am I going to do? What can I do? Ah! She looked. The Ewa was scared of her. His eyes were shining with fright, and he was backing up from the scream she had made. It must be that mask. She was doing it. Ah! She screamed one more time. Look, he fell down. He's rolling around. He got up and ran off into the woods. Was he gone? She sat for a moment and listened and heard nothing. She knew she'd done it. She had scared away the Ewa. So she went running back toward her cabin as fast as she could. Her feet were so light with joy you could barely hear them. As she came out of the woods, she saw all of her neighbors standing around. She ran toward them to tell them the good news. But their eyes looked so afraid. They were backing away. What was wrong? She reached up to pull the mask off so they'd know who she was, but it wouldn't come off. And then she saw her hands. Her hands had turned into paws. Cat's paws. Her feet, too. Oh, no, she was a cat now. She would never be Barbara Ann again. Now they say, if you go up into the mountains of Tennessee, you can find that cabin sitting on the side of the bluff, and you'll find an old crazy man living there, taken care of by a cat woman that everyone calls the Wampus Cat. Now, she may be there at the cabin, but if she's not, she'll be out wandering in the woods, making sure that nothing bothers the folks in those mountains.
We hope you enjoyed this story from the Moonlit Road podcast. Please tell your friends, family, and complete strangers about us by rating and reviewing our podcast. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, now X, at The Moonlit Road. Visit our website, themoonlitroad.com, for many more stories not on the podcast. This episode was adapted from Folklore and directed by Craig Dominey. Your storyteller was Janice Butt. Audio production by Henry Howard. The Moonlit Road podcast is a production of the Moonlit Road, LLC. See you next time.
That concludes this walk down the Moonlit Road. But you can always come back on your own. It will be here all year round, brimming with captivating and spooky tales for the whole family. The Moonlit Road can be found on the World Wide Web at www.themoonlitroad.com. The stories are always chilling, and the moon is always full. On the Moonlit Road.